Today we're focusing on 7th grade math. This is chapter 2, lesson 1. We're going to be dealing with percent of a number today. So let's go ahead and scan the lesson. So we have a chart here. We're going to make this a little bit smaller. Some students are collecting money for a local pet shelter. The model shows that they have raised 60% of their $2,000 goal, or $1,200, I should say. So they want us to fill in the decimal fraction equivalents for each of the percentage shown in the model. So 100% would be one whole. 80%, we're going to go ahead and make this bigger so we can write. 80% would be 80 out of 100, or if we were to simplify that down, it'd be 8 out of 10. We could further simplify that down to be 4 out of 5. Oh, this is the decimal, so it'd be 0.8. 0.8. With 60%, it'd be 0.6. 40% would be 0.4. 20%, 0.2. 0%, 0. 60% would be 6 out of 10. If we were to simplify that down, it would be 3 out of 5. 40 would be 4 out of 10. Divide both by 2. That'd be 2 out of 5. And then 20% would be 1/5. So we have our chart filled out here. This is very important that we understand how percentages can be written as decimals and as fractions, because there's going to be two different methods for us to solve a percent of a number. So I highly suggest that you guys write this table down, or you understand how to write percentages as decimals. So for example, if you have a percent, if you're trying to find 88% of a number, you can do two things. You can write this as a fraction, which would be 88 out of 100. Divide them by 2 to simplify down. That'd be 44 out of 50. And I think I can still divide by 2 again, which would then make this 22 out of 25. And I think that's the simplified fraction there. Another thing you can do is turn that 88% into a decimal and then multiply. Remember, the decimal is always at the end. When you convert a percentage to a decimal, percent to a decimal, you're going to jump that decimal twice over to the left. So 88% as a decimal would be 0.88. And we'll touch on this a little bit more later, because this will make a lot more sense. But we need to learn how to convert percentages to decimals and to fractions. So a quick recap again. We'll use a different number. Let's do 77%. You would put this over 100 and try to simplify, and I can tell you right now, that's simplified. 77 will not have anything in common with 100, so it's simplified. And then remember the decimal jumps, so this would be 0.77. Moving on. Use the model to write two multiplication sentences that are equivalent to 60% of 2,000 is 1,200. So remember, their goal was to raise $2,000. They only raised 60% of that total. What I can do to find what 60% is of 2,000 is two things. I can convert this to a decimal and make this 0.60, or just 0.6 because the last 0 will fade away, and multiply that by 2,000. And I'm going to show on a calculator what that would do. 2,000 multiplied by 0.6 or 0.6 will give me 1,200, like it said before. So 60% of 2,000 is 1,200. Or I can use the fraction. I can do 60 over 100, convert it down, or simplify it. That'd be 6 out of 10. Divide those both by 2. That'd be 3/5. Now let's go ahead and pull this to the side here. I would multiply 3/5 by 2,000. And I'd put 2,000 over 1. You can cross simplify before doing this. 5 divided by 5 would be 1. And remember, we kind of annex this. This would become 400, if I'm not mistaken. And you can always use your calculator. So I think 2,000 divided by 5 is 400. 2,000 divided by 5 is 400. And now I can multiply straight across after I've done cross simplification. 3 and times 400, or 3 times 4, would be 12. Annex the 2 zeros at the end. And 1 times 1 is 1. So it'd still give me my answer of 1,200. And those are the two methods that you can use to find the percent of a number. And that's pretty much the entire lesson, but we're going to keep going with this. Find the percent of a number. To find the percent of a number such as 60% of 2,000, you can either use one of the following methods, right? The percent is a fraction, then multiply, right? The percent is a decimal, then multiply. Either way is fine, whatever makes it easier for you. Just remember you have to show your steps. Find 5% of 300 by writing the percent as a fraction. So, when it comes to certain questions asking you to do it in a certain way, this is why we need to learn both methods. This question is letting us know we want you to do it as a fraction, not as a decimal. So 5% would be 5 over 100. Or, if I were to divide them both by 5, it'd become 1/20th. So it wants me to find 5% of 300. I'll double check to make sure that that's what that was asking, 5% of 300. So we write, I'm going to close Teams really quickly. We are going to write 5% as 5 over 100. Simplify it down by dividing both by 5 so that it becomes 1 over 20. Put a wall here. And I'm going to multiply that by 300 over 1. Cross simplification here, 20 and 300. I believe I can divide 300 by 20, so I'm going to guess and check. 300 divided by 20. Yep, that will become 15. This will become 1 since I divided both by 20. Multiply straight across, and this will give me 15 over 1, or just 15. Therefore, 5% of 300 is 15. The other method would be, and I know that this isn't asking for the other method, but remember, I could turn this into a decimal by jumping twice to the left. So I can check my answer. 300 times 0.05, because remember, this became 0.5, should equal 15, and it does. Therefore, my answer is correct. And if we look at the steps that they took, they did the same thing. 1/20th times 300, cross simplify, became 15, and this became 1. We multiplied straight across, became 15 over 1, or just 15. Therefore, 5% of 300 is 15. Find 25% of 180 by writing the percent as a decimal. 25% of 180. 25% of 180. I'm going to double check to make sure that was the question. That is. So as a decimal, remember, it'll jump twice to the left. This will become 0.25 multiplied by 180. I'm going to plug that into my calculator. 0.25 multiplied by 180. And that'll give me 45. Now remember, when you do your homework, you want to write out your steps here. I don't expect you guys to have to do all of this. If you want to do that, that's fine. You're more than welcome to use your calculator, but at least write out the steps that you took. I expect to see you convert your percentage to a decimal. I expect you to put the multiplication that you put in the calculator, and I expect you to circle your answer. So my answer should be 45. And it is. Here they show the long method of multiplying. They did 5 times 0, 5 times 8, 5 times 1. Then placeholder 0 should be here. 2 times 0, 2 times 8, 2 times 1. They add it together, count the decimals, or 2 after, so it becomes 45. We're going to do these questions here, and then we are going to look at our notes. So 40% of 70. And I'm going to switch around my methods since it doesn't tell me that I need to do it in a certain manner. 40% of 70. I'm going to use the decimal method here, 1, 2. So this would become 0.4. Again, I don't have to write it as 0.40 because the last 0 will fade away. And multiply it by 70. I'm going to plug that into my calculator. 0.4 times 70. Therefore, 40% of 70 will give me 28. The other method I could have used was to make this a fraction. That would become 4 out of 10, because it's 40 over 100. Cross last zeros out. 4 over 10, divide both by 2, will be 2/5. 2/5 times 70 over 1. 70 divided by 5 would give me 14. So if I were to simplify these down, it would give me 14 and 5 and 1. 2 times 14 is 28. 1 times 1 is 1. That would still give me 28. So both methods shown here. %15 of 100. Now, this one's pretty easy. Anytime they ask you for percentage of 100, it's just going to be that number. So, as a decimal, this would be 0.15 times 100. Guarantee you this is going to equal 15. 0.15, let's clear the 0.15 times 100 equals 15. And as a fraction, this would be 15 over 100 times 100 over 1. Simplify these both down to 1, and this will equal 15 over 1, or just 15. And that's it. And I think it'll be quicker just to erase these than have it start a whole new whiteboard. 55% of 160. Now, anytime it's 50% of something, you can just divide it by 2 and have it. But this is asking for 55% of 160. I'm going to use the decimal method on this one. I'm going to change the color. 1, 2. This will become 160 times 0.55. Remember, the order in which we multiply doesn't matter. I know I've been writing the decimal first. The order doesn't matter when we multiply. Make sure you clear your calculator, otherwise you may get the wrong answer. 0.55 multiplied by 160 gives me 88. And that is my answer. If I were to do it the other way, so 55 over 100, divide them both by 5, that'd be 11 over 20 times 160 over 1. 160, clear. 160 divided by 20 to cross simplify would be 8. So this would become 8. This would become 1. This would become 88. 11 times 8. 1 times 1, which would still be 88. So either method is fine. And our last example, 75% of 280. 75% of 280. Decimal method tells me to jump 0.75 times 280. 0.75 times 280 That'll give me a total of 210, which would be my answer. Or decimal method. Here's the thing. There are some percentages that you should know right off the bat how to write it as a fraction. 75 over 100, or 75%, is going to be 3/4. If I divided these both by 25, I'd end up getting 3/4. 3/4 times 280. 1. Clear. 280. I'm going to divide it by 4. Hopefully it gives me a whole number. It does. This will become 1. This will become, it was 70, correct? 3 times 70, or 3 times 7, I know is 21. And x is 0. That was at the end. 1 times 1. It still gives me my same answer of 210. Now, on OneNote, you guys have your Steiner notes. The Steiner notes go over the double methods. It'll actually show the whole answer. The entire image is not showing, so let me go ahead and refresh the page. There we go. Weird. It cut the page in half. Or is it a second page? Oh, it's a second picture. Okay, we're good. So our Steiner notes here show the two methods. The method of utilizing the percentages as fractions, and the method of using the percentages as decimals, and then multiplying as well. Remember to copy these down into your notes. If there's an anchor poster for this lesson, you'll be responsible for copying that down in your notes as well. And that's pretty much it. That is how you find the percentage of a number. As always, if you guys have any questions, you guys know how to reach me. This is Mr. P. I'll see you guys on the next lesson.